So the first order of business, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's now at 6:36, and we do have a quorum at this point in time. Approval of the minutes of the meeting of September 15th, 2020. Those were, I believe, sent out, I hope. And a motion would be in order to approve the minutes.
Mark, were they, this is Bill Hull, were they sent out? Because I looked through my emails and could
Oh,
not find them.
geez. Yeah, it's entirely possible we didn't. That's why I was asking. All right.
They get sent to the clerks and posted on the city website.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My apology. We should have said, I know it was forwarded to me. Give me a minute.
Mark, you're the host again.
All right. Thank you. I'm just gonna.
No, I did send out last month's minutes, but it was with the first agenda, not your new agenda.
Okay. Do you know what? That's right. It went out with the agenda. The first agenda. That's right. It did. Did you get that, Bill? I thought it was.
I did not. So
The first agenda that Catherine sent out the week before last.
that's okay. Go ahead.
I
If
just-
they were sent out, I'll just abstain.
Can anyone see my screen at this point? Or no?
No.
No,
There we go. All right, this is what I'm gonna do. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna come back to that. All right, could I have a motion, please? Motion to accept the minutes. Christine, second. Wave your hand, somebody, or unmute.
I'll
No.
second it.
Thank you, Stacy. Is anyone, if you want to why don't you take a minute or two, and if anyone's got any additions or corrections or deletions to the minutes, just shout it out. Unmute yourself and let me know. Let us know, I should say. All right. All right, any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes? Greg?
There are two S's in my last name.
Catherine, you get that?
Yeah, sorry.
All right, thank you.
There are two T's in mine too, just for the record. Three, actually, if you count the one at the end. All right, anything else? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye or wave.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, minutes are approved as presented with the correction of Greg's name. All right. Is there any public comment tonight? I see several people. Was it Joe, *6 to raise their hand on the phone? You remember that?
Yes.
*6. All right. There's 7603. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Eileen Eagle with Arcadis.
Yes? Did you want to say something?
Yep. No, I was just letting you know who's on the phone.
You don't have to do that. It's not necessary. Yeah, it's a public meeting. You know, we actually just had a discussion about this the other day, and it's not, I don't have to know. I like to know, but so be it. But thanks for letting me know. That's nice. Is there anybody else that's got that wants to make a public comment or anything? You can unmute yourself at *6 and I'll recognize you. Seeing none, we'll continue. Unlike some meetings, I ain't waiting around. So the next piece is the review of the old report from the School Facilities Committee. I'm going to request the help a little bit of Stacy and Joe as we go along here, and even Heather, because you've attended quite a few of the meetings yourself. So you certainly understand what some of this, some of what we went through at the time. So this came up as I was talking to Pete Gauthier and Greg. About what was going on. It seems to be some question about, how we got to this point. So with that said, I'm just going to put this up, and that's why I sent it out. I hope that everybody got a chance to look at it. It's not a long report. I thought it was pretty brief and to the point. I'm going to put it up here. Everybody should be able to see it, I hope. Like I said, some of us that are on this committee now served, the city council members anyway, served on that committee. I wasn't on the city council at the time, but and then several members of the community at large and school officials. So obviously the old superintendent was part of the endeavor at the beginning, and Kristen Stringfellow came in. She got to see the end. But so basically, there were several factors that we considered. If you look here at the summary, so several of the existing buildings have either reached or exceeded their design service lifespan. They weren't designed for some of the purposes they're serving. At least 4 of the buildings don't comply with state regulations regarding ADA. And aside from Kelly, because we just updated Kelly, we just did a renovation project on Kelly, which I served on. Every building is going to require, every school building is going to be requiring major building improvements, capital investment, let's just call it, or major upgrades in their systems. Right now, obviously, we've talked briefly about the situation at Stanton School, with roofs and boilers and all that. This is not an unusual situation right now in Norwich, unfortunately. So this is the thing that we're dealing with. That's how this project got started, basically. Not so sure we, for whatever reason we did that. We did this and we looked. Hang on. Hello. Hello? Yeah, I got a doctor's appointment. Sorry. So they created this committee and we had no budget. So what we did is we took the school facilities report from that failed to bring anything to fruition in 2016, that was generated, and we used the data in that study to come up with a new plan, basically a recommendation. So what we didn't have, like I said, is a budget or anything else. So we would take we're trying to take into account what would be the most likely buildings that could be renovated. In our case, we have the authority to, make those changes and decisions, and we have some funding at this point. We'll probably obviously need more to do some work on what is going on. So, what we might be able to do, but we just don't know that that's the whole situation right now. Some like Joe DeLucia, Alderman DeLucia, has some architectural experience in his background, but by and large, we have an issue with we just don't have the studies to know what we're going to run into as far as when we actually talk about maybe doing expansions on a property or whatever. So anyway, and we don't have any cost estimates, obviously. So we reviewed those reports and we came up with some rationale. So our student population, we believe, is going to increase slightly or at least remain level for various reasons, but mainly because there's a lot of residential development in town right now. Right now, we're having trouble with space needs. That much is pretty obvious. So we're sending, we'd like to be able to return children that are currently attending programs out of district. That's one of the goals here. And we'd even like to bring in tuition paying students. We're also trying to consider the future where we might be required to provide full day K and pre-K. Full day pre-K across the whole system. So where we don't provide that now. Let's see. It's a long obviously it's a long project. And so those are the kind of things we're trying to forecast out. And the point that historically renovated districts tend to bring in more kids. So each of the elementary schools, we decided it would probably be best for them to serve pre-K through grade 5. And the main reason for that, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, that for me anyway, we want the schools to be, to have that sense of community where you're sending that child to school for a number of years, and that's that community center, so for that, for that group. So, so that way they're not jumping, K through 2 and 3 through 5 or whatever, something like that. We didn't think that model would be really, effective, would be the most effective. Plus, we're thinking that when we got to the end of it, that we would probably have several large schools, and that was, we wanted that whole piece of the pie there.
Mark, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
And to back that statement up, in the survey that we did, over 44% of the respondents said that we should have pre-K in every elementary school.
Right.
And then another almost 45% preferred the pre-K to 5 model with the 6, 7, 8 middle school model stacked on top of it.
Right. So that was certainly, a lot of this came out from that survey, which Joe managed. So, let's see. So we were, at this point, we were thinking 3,000 to 3,200 pupils. I think we're going to come in a little lower than that, but all that's really going to be dependent on enrollment studies. When we do those will be one of I think one of the first things that gets done. And we'll have to make those decisions at that point. But that was with the basic parameters of what we thought about. So I don't want to talk about some of the, there's only 5 let me see, six buildings I want to really talk about in here. Some of them are going to be renovated. And we're not exactly positive what the end use of some of them will be, although we have some suggestions in here as far as, say Bishop Early Learning Center, what it would be, what it would become. So basically, Samuel Huntington, Greg's here. Greg made it. Okay. Greg was one of the ones that we talked about with this. So one of the things, so Samuel Huntington would become the central office essentially. We'd also probably, I think, move the Norwich Transition Academy from Hickory Street. So we want that building to still have an educational component. Part of that is so that, we could possibly renovate it and receive reimbursement for that, So Stanton, renovate is new and expand to accommodate 850 students. That would be big. Kelly wouldn't be anything. Moriarty is another expansion. That's a large, again, those 2 lots are the biggest lots we probably have for schools in the city and would lend themselves better for that. We have Mahan listed as being decommissioned mainly because of its location and its value. Uncas would be renovated to accommodate a larger number of students. All right, which one am I missing? So I'm scrolling through here. Stanton, Killen, Moriarty, Uncas. Oh, the new construction. So, and one new construction elementary school. As a logistical piece, probably the new construction is probably the first thing we probably should be looking at, but that's just my opinion. I'll just, we'll get to that because we'll need a place to put people as we go to project to project to project. So if there's problems and we can't say we can't renovate a school or get as many as we'd like in a particularly building in a situation or whatever, veterans is out there and we could leave that open and use that to fill up some space, because that would also solve a geographical issue that we have with some of the schools too. So, we don't, the way this lays out, that east side Laurel Hill area wouldn't have any elementary schools in it at all. So not that we're doing neighborhood schools anymore. That's not what the system's designed for. But, it'd be nice to, if kids aren't on the bus for an hour every day or something, so that's the point there. So, but we'll see as we go along. So, and the rest of it deals with the survey, which I'm not going to go through all of this stuff, but Joe, I think, really came up with the high points there. That probably was some of the important things there. And there were some other things too that were kind of interesting that we brought up, things like community pools and stuff like that. So that were actually fairly popular, for comments. So, but that I don't think we're going to be talking about here. And then the rest, there's some numbers that the new superintendent gave us at the time at the end of the project, indicating what capital expenditures we might be able to save if we do the project. And so I'm going to trust that y'all going to take a look at that. So I didn't want to kill a lot of time going over that. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. If you do, just shout them out. Any questions for anyone? Negative. All right. So some work got done in the meantime, this past month, regarding where we should go for now, where we should go from here. Yeah.
I apologize. I was on mute. Is Kristen on the phone?
I don't believe so. Athena is.
She is not. She's busy with something else at the moment.
Yep, she's
Okay.
still in that other meeting.
Yeah, there's a lot of meetings going on for them right now. Christine, go ahead. You can unmute yourself, Christine. You've got. Hang on, let me do you. See if it'll, there you go.
All right, I think I'm here now. You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Now, when you folks put all this effort into the last study that you did, I mean, I know it was a lot of work. Was there any consideration, I don't know about the funding part, was there any consideration given to making two centralized elementary schools instead, like one more like Stanton area and then possibly Veterans, but I don't know how much, I've been by Veterans and drove around it, but I don't know how much land we own.
I'll tell you the problem with Veterans, that they didn't make the list at all because there's no land there and the topography is
Yeah.
crazy. So there's absolutely no land, no extra parking, no nothing. So even doing, so if we did, if we kept Veterans just because we needed the overflow, it would be the smallest school in the system. And it would also, and it would, but we would still renovate it. And, but it would still have all the problems that it already has, but it would just be a space, should be a space issue then, so.
Was also, I know we've brought this up before. I know it was talked about how, the Greenville area, which I know a lot of them go up to Moriarty, but Greenville and the east side and Laurel Hill, well, Laurel going to Veterans, but when Greenville School was shut down, a lot of people felt that they were basically discriminated against. So that's why I was trying to think of, another location. that
Yeah,
would be
no, I
close
mean,
to
that's
them.
something that's certain, like I mentioned before, that's certainly, something that the committee considered. So it's, we're
And
not insensitive to it. But again, the educational model we have isn't one of, neighborhood schools anymore, so.
oh, no, I know. I was just thinking because
But
bus wise,
it's still,
we had two.
you try, but you want to have some consideration. You do want to spread them out a little bit. That would be the best situation of all.
Right. Because I'm just thinking, I mean, if Stanton ends up being one of the ones expanded, it should really just be knocked down and started over again. 'Cause, renovating such a waste of money. But you have, why have Uncas open when you have Stanton, down the road?
Right.
That's what I don't understand about that part. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah,
Mark, if I may.
go ahead, Joe.
So Christine, so yeah, we labored over that point because, if you look at this plan and we close Veterans and we close Bishop, and right now we don't have an elementary school in Greenville. We have some assets in Greenville, but not an elementary school. So you would really have nothing on the entire east side of town, right? From Taffel all the way to the southern border, all the way to the eastern border, no school or anything. And that's an issue. Okay. One of the things that we talked about was, is the placement of this new school. And is there any way that the new school could be somewhere on that side of town?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's, to just kind of expand on the answer to your question. You're hitting the nail right on the head. There really isn't a school that we can quote unquote save and expand, right? And but maybe we could build a new school somewhere on that side of town. The other thing because the first thing you asked was there any consideration to having two schools, right? Just having two.
And close
mega
out,
schools, right?
close down the rest.
The problem is that none of our sites are large enough. No two of our sites are large enough to put two gigantic schools on to service all of the kids pre-K through 5.
Right. I know I drove around and kept looking and like one of the areas that I had looked at was, of course, it's where Cone has his dog park, of course, in memory of his wife, where the asylum, fire was. But I didn't know, since the city does own part of that land with the city garage there. So I didn't even know if that idea was ever explored, because it would be down, more, more central than, say, Stanton. Not much, but
That's
some.
a floodplain, isn't it?
No. Well, not up high, where the dog park is.
Yeah,
And
right.
the the Memorial Park is.
Down where
But
the
that-
garage it is though.
The garage, yeah, the garage is down low.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Rossler's, you know.
But
there's other-
yeah, so I will tell you one thing though, going back to your original point though. What we're talking about here is very unusual for Connecticut as far as the size of the schools go. We are talking about schools that are probably a lot larger than, not a lot, from a countrywide aspect, that's not the case, but here it's unusual to have elementary schools the size of what we're going to be talking about here.
Mhm.
So never mind, Dennis had the concept that he wanted that super school concept. Really, I don't think, was gonna fly, anyway, but so having 3,000 kids, never mind, so 3,000, okay, now we go to 1,500, versus, we're still talking about 800, 850 in a lot of these schools, so, excuse me. And that's a much bigger model than what they're used to in this state. So we're not even there yet. So and it just, and like just, I mean, there's really, and trying to find a place where you would not impede, ridiculous amounts of traffic, trying to get that many children into school or something like that,
Exactly.
it's kind of crazy. Those are all considerations. So
Oh,
I think with the extent of this project that we're talking about is pushing the envelope about as far as we possibly could.
Mhm. I'm just thinking too, as I know you folks were, it was what's going to appeal to the population,
Yeah.
because people want to be fair. And I know you tried looking at everything from different perspectives, but I just want to put my 2 cents in there too.
Yeah, no, in fact, the building of a new school was actually the last thing that was pretty much considered. We had to double back to it because, the numbers didn't jive with, in the buildings that we had that were good, that could be renovated, didn't jive with what, with what the numbers were. So,
I know.
all right.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions or comments?
So Kristen, if you
Go ahead,
could, do you see any significant deficiencies in the thought of going to the 4 schools or 2 schools versus the local neighborhood schools? What's your perspective on?
I'm gonna, I would rather let an educator answer that question, because
Yeah,
I mean,
Kristen.
from my perspective, the
Kristen is
model
not
isn't
here
that,
tonight.
yeah.
Oh,
There's not a lot, I mean, there are different types of schools. We have magnet schools and
Mark,
the
if Mark,
model
if
is just
Kristen-
entirely different.
I would just like to hear from Kristen on that. That's
Yeah,
all.
no, that's what, but like I said, though, the model is entirely different now. It's not like, what it used to be. One school doesn't do the same thing that another school does. So that's my
And
own.
One of the points you made was about bringing more kids into the system.
Bringing
Where would-
our kids back. But also there's a possibility that if we have the space, that we could bring other kids in from other systems for a profit, essentially, for cost, collect tuition. So that's a possibility if we had the space. Right now, there's no way that's ever going to happen, unless, we had the extra space. So
that really wouldn't be a goal. That would just be something that we might be able to do on the margins, if you will.
right.
Okay.
Right. So it's not a primary, but if we can budget for it and, if it works, then great. But I think we have to start, with the enrollment numbers and try to work it back from there. So that's what the state's gonna pay for anyway. So anyone else? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Go ahead, Christine. You got something else?
No, I remember someone saying something a while back that in order for us to get fully reimbursed by the state, what was that? Wasn't there a minimum number of students that the facility would have to hold for the new building?
Yeah, we're not gonna have any problem with that.
All right. I wasn't sure if it was like 500 or something. I
No.
know we'll be over that.
No.
Okay. All right. All right.
I
thank
don't
you.
think we'll ever have an issue with that, so,
Very good.
no, that's all right. Let's see, potential timeline. So I wanted to throw this up. I sent this out in that email. Hang on, I'm gonna do the whole share thing again. All right, so I have on the agenda, later on the agenda, here is the issue with professional services. So that covers a lot of ground. Initially, obviously, we had a presentation on OPMs at the last meeting. It's certainly not that important for us to make any kind of decision on an OPM, for an RFP or anything else right this second. If you look at this is basically a draft timeline from, I'm not sure, Athena, when the last time you touched this was, but obviously it's talking about August, and
Yeah, Josh and I looked at it like 2 days before the last building committee meeting, so it's very
Right.
recent.
Okay, so but basically, so the first piece I guess we really need to do is talk about doing an RFP, RFQ for an architect. So rather than doing anything else. So just to go over what some of these are. So then we got a conceptual drawings and develop a construction budget. So during the course of this, we're going to have to talk about, and we mentioned this before, and I'll get to this with the other piece of the agenda. I might as well bring it up right this second. And that's an update on the bonding issue. And the fact of the matter is that we could probably do this either way. The state does not want to see a presentation to them with that big dollar amount, though. So it'd be like one project at a time, basically, from the sounds of it. Am I wrong, Athena? So
You're not wrong.
okay, so but as for bonding purposes, it's possible we could go to referendum with the whole enchilada and then submit it in phases. Problem is, that's a big nut for the public to crack, So I'm not sure that's the right way to go. The other problem, obviously, is that we would be doing multiple referenda on multiple projects. So, but I'd like to hear from other people what they think on that issue at this point, because we got to start thinking in terms of this.
How many years is this projected plan for, Mark?
It's a good question. Because of the number of projects we have, I'm thinking it's gonna be around a 10-year plan, at least.
I'd say you'd at least have to put it out to referendum at least twice. I think one big one is just too big a nut to crack.
Yeah, no, I kind of was thinking that. That might be, do the first two and then the next 2 or 3 after that. That could make sense. It doesn't have to be one for everyone. Could break it out that way. That makes some sense. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I think Jerry makes a good point, because, and it's not just having, just the one nut being too big to crack. It's also the time value of money over a 10-year span. We'd be asking to borrow money literally a decade before we're going to use it. We don't know. We have no idea if that money is going to have, well, I should say, we're pretty certain that it will not have the same value, 8 years after the bond is even if it's approved. So we'd be going back to the community asking for more money if we were running short, even with contingencies built in. So to break it into a couple of pieces, may not, I should say, may be the better route.
All right, so I'm going to suggest, mainly because we've been talking about this Stanton thing a fair amount, that probably the Stanton renovation would be the number 2 project after a new school. Does that make sense?
Can I jump in for a second,
Sure.
Mark?
Sure.
All right, so I'll throw my 2 cents in here,
Happy to have
whatever
it.
it's worth.
You want change?
I may need change, please. I think if we're gonna break this out into two different projects, then I think we should be looking at Stanton and Moriarty, and this is just my opinion, Stanton and Moriarty and Waquanic in the first part of this.
Yeah, but
And then-
Quonic is not a renovate is new project. Not in
Well,
the same way. It may be a facilities building. We're not positive on Waquanic's end use. So that's something we got to talk about.
Okay, so, but if we're looking at, we're gonna, in my humble opinion, if we look at those three pieces, okay? We look at Stanton, we look at Moriarty, and we look at Waquanic.
The
And
problem
my
is.
thinking,
Right.
and my thinking behind this is,
Okay.
we get those two schools renovated,
Stanton Moriarty.
Stanton and Moriarty,
Okay.
we look at them to renovate. When we're done with that, we can decommission. See, you got my train of thought all.
Decommission Waquanic or
Decommission Mahan.
Thank you, Joe. We decommission Mahan,
Mahan? Oh, there you go.
okay? We can move the central office. We can move
How are you gonna
everybody
move
out of
central
Hickory
office?
Street.
How are you gonna move
What?
central office?
We're moving central office to Waquanic,
No, central office goes to Huntington.
I mean to Huntington.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to renovate Huntington? You mean? Is that what you're talking about? Not Waquanic.
Right, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Now
Stanton-
you're making sense.
Stanton, Moriarty, and Huntington, I'm sorry. If we do those three, we decommission Mahan, we move central office, so we now have the ability to put those two pieces of property on the market and try to get them sold.
Mhm.
And then we look at Uncas, veterans, and a new school
On the backside.
on the backside. We get the kids out of Waquanic, we move them to Moriarty. We can look at what's going to be the end use of Moriarty. What do we, I mean, the end use of Waquanic, do we have to, what improvements do we have to make there? Do we need that to be a third bite of the apple? But,
Yeah.
so that's just my thinking. Stanton,
Alright.
we think about Stanton, Moriarty, and Huntington as the first bite of the apple.
All right. There's only one problem with that whole thing. Is that when we do a renovators new project. Yeah, I
Can
see
you let
her.
Kristen?
I see her. So the only problem with that is that we need logistically, we need that new building to have a place to put the kids. So we're talking about, in order to do a renovators new project, I mean, it's not impossible, but because we did it at Kelly, but it's much more difficult to do a renovators new project with the building occupied. So Kelly lent itself to that because it had the wings set up, so one wing we built it and we had an addition built, then we put everybody in the addition and then we cleared out one wing and we renovated that and went along. So and it took a lot longer than it needed to. That was the other piece. So, could we do it? Yeah, maybe if we do it. But the problem is the addition, you're going to lose space because we built the addition at Kelly in the off season. So when school was closed. But so if the project runs long, it was a risk. We had trouble. We were bailing right to the last minute, trying to, get the addition done and ready to inhabit, and before kids went to school. So it's not the best scenario. So the whole thing there is just the logistics of having the new school. So.
All right, well,
But
so if that's
not
a
a-
logistic,
It's
well,
not,
if that's a
it's not undoable.
logistical nightmare, then I think we have to look at, then we go first for a new school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and look at, maybe the two smaller schools being renovated at the same time.
Yeah.
And if we have to move.
Good. The
some
only reason
kids
I said
from-
Stanton was because of the need, because of the issues that they have right now.
right.
So,
Just so I can give you some feedback on that, the issues that we have right now can't wait. So we are moving forward with the boiler. We are going to move forward with the roof.
all right,
So it actually may be better if it's not one of the first buildings so that you're not risking having to pay money back.
okay,
Okay,
Oh, that's,
that would make some sense. So what do you say so I know we're talking about Uncas. So we could do Uncas and, what would be the other one? Moriarty?
well, if you do Uncas and Moriarty, you could move some kids if you had to from Uncas to Stanton, and you could move some kids from Moriarty to Aquanic if it's possible, or to Huntington, while you're renovating those schools and doing the new school construction. And we'll leave Stanton
Yeah,
off
if you,
the table. Or,
Yeah,
take
that could
Stanton
work.
off the list.
okay. I mean, that's not a decision we have to make tonight, but I think that's doable. That makes some sense now. Christine?
how much, when Athena just said that about the paying the money back, that means like for the boiler installation, Athena? And that, I mean, are we looking at
The-
like
the
a
boiler-
real
Boiler
lot
and
of
the
money?
roof.
The boiler is not going to go through the state. That's not a state project, but the roof will be a state funding project. And we had the piece of the roof that was done in 2019.
Right,
So it would be better if it's a
I
roof
know.
project. It's not millions of dollars, but still.
I know, but yeah, so Mark, what I'm saying is, because I like the idea kind of what Stacy was saying was, head for the big new building first. But because this renovating thing, I said, I know, I've been told by this state contractors, the guy that used to oversee all the state building. And he said it cost us 3 times more, to renovate versus new construction.
He's
And
right.
right. And I mean, that's just ridiculous. And I just think because the amount of room that Stanton has, as far as the land that's there, I think we should be raising Stanton and building the new school there, and, putting their kids out to Mahan before we sell it, and then
We have no place to put the kids, though.
there. But how about even between I'm sorry, I always get Uncas and Veterans mixed up. Uncas and Huntington and Waquanic. There's no room to put the kids from Stanton.
No,
Okay. Because it just.
there's no room
doesn't-
anywhere right now. That's the problem.
Yeah. And
So we
when
need
you-
that, that's why you need that new building first. So what we're
That's what
talking
I'm-
about, even with this, though, what Stacy's talking about, we'd be talking about 2 phases.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
one bond issue, but 2 phases. So
Yeah.
it'd be one, say, build the new school, and then the second phase would be the renovation of, say, Uncas and Moriarty. And
Hey,
then we can move stuff around.
and another consideration is I'm quite old. So when teachers was built, we did double sessions at Kelly.
Yeah, I
So-
was there then, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm quite old too, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a consideration too,
Well, that's nothing you
the
want
worst
to do.
comes to worst. I know.
Double-
I know.
Milk
the
and
last
cookie breaks are
resort.
not something you want to do with middle schoolers, trust me.
Yeah,
It's-
but
Which is what
but
we did back
overall-
then.
Couldn't, if I,
I always liked the cookies, Mark.
Were you there then, Pete?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there too.
We're all
Okay.
we have
Speak for yourself, Christine.
we have a 3-tier transportation system with NFA. The middle schools are on tier 2 with Mahan, and all the rest of the elementary schools are on tier 3. We wouldn't be able to transport kids to double sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they'd have to come up with some more buses, right, for student? They'd have to buy some buses.
It'd definitely be a horror show, so.
Yeah.
Mark,
All
why,
right.
Mark, to go back, why was Stanton deemed to go rehabilitate it versus build a new school?
You mean at the site?
Yeah.
Well, part of the problem, the school's already there. There's enough land. The biggest thing is land. It's now on us. It went on city sewer a number of years ago. So it was, it's just as far as land and all that it's the most available to expand. So, I mean, to tear it down, you would have to relocate everything from that school probably into the new school. And then if you would raise it and then build new, you could do that, I suppose.
Yeah, well, yeah. So
But demolishing has its own, don't forget, demolishing isn't cheap either. If you,
Right.
you take something, if you tear something down, there's a cost there too. You can spend several $1 million just tearing the thing down.
Well, and the other thing you have to consider is the reimbursement rate.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they're not gonna they'll pay to build, they won't pay to demolish. I don't think.
Well-
Maybe they will. I don't know. I'd
Yeah.
ask Athena on
Can I
that.
just weigh in on that?
Sure.
So, but the question is, why it's not really wasn't about Stanton School, the building. It was about the Stanton site. And that's,
Right,
Right.
Mark, that's what you kind of hinted at.
right.
So we're not saying that the existing building has to be renovate as new. The design professionals will tell us whether that is in our best interest or not, based on a number of different factors. What we're saying though is there needs to be a new or an expanded school on that site.
Right.
Oh, okay, that's different than what we've been saying.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
We like I said, we don't know anything really until an architect really, takes a look at it and tells us what we can or cannot do at the site. So,
I know, because wasn't there a mention too about buying the temple, the synagogue's land too? I remember that coming up once in one of our meetings. Someone had proposed that as a possibility as far as taking that land too. And then we could possibly start building new and there with still having the school in session, I think, or something of that sort.
So right now, just to ask a question, right now, there is no site intended for this new school.
correct.
You can drive around Norwich and try it. It's very difficult because of the lane, because we're all ledge, It's true. It's major work and blasting everywhere.
When I built my addition here back in the early 90s, I got I got through one half of digging out the entire bed. I wanted a full basement in the addition. Yeah, we got halfway there till it hit a solid wall of rock, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Wound up drilling and pouring footings for half of it. That sucked.
Mhm.
And my
So how
deck out front, nothing's deeper than 15 inches.
So how do we go to an architect if we don't even have a projected possible site to give them to consider?
It's a good question. That's probably the next step. We're gonna have to talk about that. So too, but I'm gonna have to make some inquiries on that because acquiring property is a little bit different. It's certainly nothing you would want to talk about in specifics here in regular session. So if there was a situation where maybe there was lots or something like that, we would, there are places and combinations of lots that are available because you could plant a school in a lot of places. You could put a school in a residential neighborhood where you couldn't do that with some other things. So there are, areas available that we could do stuff. They may present challenges topography wise and stuff. That's why they're probably not fully developed. But to talk about that here in open session probably wouldn't be the best idea as far as any specifics go. So we would have to go out and try to and look for a site. We would have somebody do that.
All right, can I throw my 2
Go ahead.
cents in one
Go
more
ahead.
time? or my 3 cents,
A
I
quarter,
think-
whatever.
or 4.
You're worth more than a,
well,
you're worth more than a couple cents. Yeah.
Thank you. I sincerely believe, rather than trying to go out and purchase land that the city doesn't, somebody else owns.
Yep.
Is not the best way to go about this. And I think we should seriously consider whether the land where the Greenville School originally existed wouldn't meet the needs.
No,
Lot's not big enough.
no. Plus the accessibility, Stacy. I drove over there and just sat there for a little while. And the accessibility, because of it being a tight neighborhood too. But yeah, the land is all tiered.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't,
Unless we could acquire property around it or something.
yeah, knock
Yeah.
down the building.
Yeah. But there's other sites.
Well-
It's something that's gonna have to be explored.
Yeah, if I could, Mark.
Sure.
So, to Stacy's point, all right, the old Greenville School, right? But what about, that site, that's a difficult site and it's too small. But what about the property we own where Norwich Transition Academy is and the old St. Mary's School that we own where Adult Ed is? I mean, there's multiple properties there that we're in, we're in control of. Maybe,
Maybe.
maybe
I
it's
don't think the total
not
sites
all
would
that
be,
we need, but
yeah.
it's a bulk of what we need, right?
yeah.
And if we could, if we're only acquiring smaller properties around that larger property that the city already owns, just an idea.
So
Yeah.
Mark, do we set up a subcommittee of this team to go research this? Or how do we come up with our options?
I'm actually we're gonna have to ask some questions about that, that's all. As far as,
Well, I think we could go to the city planner, do Deanna
Yeah.
Rhodes,
yeah,
and ask her to
Should
look
be
at
one.
city-owned properties, and she can put in the parameters that we need a 3-acre site, 4 acres, 5 acres, whatever, 5, 6 acres, and
Yeah.
see what we have available that the city already owns. I don't like the idea. I hate the idea of trying
I
to
see you,
buy
Jerry.
property that is on the tax rolls now and take it off.
yeah. Oh, no, I
Can I-
agree.
Can I
And
just,
obviously, the best piece would be if it was on property the city already owned. And that's of course is a possibility. Could be a site that we repurpose, that the city may be using for something else. All right, you just don't know. Jerry Martin, you got your hand up.
Yeah, it's there's this nice big property going out where the old state hospital used to be. I think the city owns part of it.
No,
But there's a lot of land there.
there is, but we don't own it.
Not anymore. We gave it away, but
We didn't. We never owned it. The state offered it to us, and we didn't take them up on the offer.
Yep. Let's talk about mismanagement. It's disgusting.
okay. Thank you.
So the problem there was, Jerry, was at the time, and I think I was on the council at the time, or I was right near the end of it or whatever, one of my stints. The cost to clean up the property would far exceed the value the city would get out of it. And we had no guarantee from the state. It's the same problem Preston's been having now, that in the property, the size of the developable area that we would get out of it was just not going to be worth it for us. That was, we thought it would be better to leave it to private industry and the state to try to work out. So because we didn't want to really be on the hook for that. Anyone else? Kristen?
sorry, I had a, excuse me, I had a school staff meeting that created a little bit of a lateness to this topic.
Yep.
But I wonder if, since it's been a number of years since a real enrollment study and an engineer has taken a look at the thinking and the planning, if that first step of having the engineer come through and take a look at what the last committee came up with to see if it matches what the enrollment study is and the new laws and regulations for about how big schools and lots and egress and levels and handicap accessibility, all of those things that might need a double check before you purchase land or reacquire land is my wondering.
Yeah, no, I think, no, you're right. Obviously we're gonna have to know what our, specific needs are before we, move forward. So, I mean, we are getting a little ahead of it. So,
Oh, enrollment study.
yeah. Again, more professional services. So that's something we'll talk about in a minute here. Let's, we'll go to the next piece here. So update on legal binding state issues. I touched on that briefly. Obviously the state, I said, we've talked about that as far as the, the bond situation, how we're going to set up the program. And I think, there's obviously some things here that, we should be able to find agreement on. So it's not necessary for us to put anything down permanent, but I think, we have a basis for moving forward. But I do want to take care of this one issue for Josh. So he can pay somebody. Let me just do this. Now, where is it going? Why is this doing this to me?
Mark, are you looking for a motion to pay the bill?
No, I'm looking, my meeting wants to keep on disappearing on me. I've got the participants up there. It is. It's hiding behind the participants. Okay. So let me bring up the receipt here. I do have that brought up here someplace. Thought I had it. Let me get rid of this. Oh, there it is. So, did everybody get the invoice?
Yes.
Okay. So, that's what this one little wonderful little document here. So we have a $1,592.50 bill for legal services that I'm going for regarding the written opinion that we got for regarding the bond issues. So, which told us basically, I think, what we probably already figured, but that's okay. At least we know. So I would entertain a motion to pay the invoice for Pullman and Comley for $1,592.50, please.
So moved.
I'll
that Peter?
second that, Mark. Bill Hull.
And Bill, second by Bill Hull. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Sorry,
Any
who made
opposed?
that motion?
Any opposed? Hearing none, payment is so ordered. Hope you're happy, Josh.
I think Catherine might need just a quick, who made the motion and who seconded it.
Peter Gauthier made the motion.
Okay, thanks. I got the second, but everyone.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Heather. All right, let me get rid of that. All right, next piece. So back to the professional services issue. So I will note that Kristen sent out and put in for the sheriff in the shared file a document with links to school construction. So honestly, I have not had a chance to go through that yet. I'll do so this week. I'd say we probably should all go through it, give us a better idea where we're going to need to be in our process, and educate ourselves, I guess, because at this point we don't know a whole lot, and I think we're jumping around a little bit, so we'll try to get back on track here. The professional services issue. Hang on, let's see. So at this point, I don't think we're really ready for anything this month. We're certainly not ready for a project manager or anything, or an OPM. So, but I think, the first move is probably going to be for an architect as far as professional services go. But we have to clarify, what and where we're doing something and whatever first, or if that has to even happen. So, and what, as far as what the process is. So, I don't know, Athena, have you ever done Kristen, even have you ever done a new school project?
I have done a new school project in Plainfield and obviously most of Kelly. However, the entire process is different now with the state. So I have not done any projects under the new system. We finished the roof under the new system, but it didn't start under the new system.
Okay. Fills me with confidence.
Well, I can tell you I've reached out to business administrators and there are very few that have done anything under the new system. Every question I ask, they're like, nope, you need to call the state. We have no idea.
Yeah.
Well,
All
can
right.
we get some guidance from the state as to what the new system is? Is there materials that, we can have
They
so
have
that we know what the
That's what I
system is?
sent out to you all.
Yeah. So, yeah, right.
Stacy, I inquired last week and have been for some time on the state website. There isn't anything. And so there's a whole department that is left up to this. And I put all that's it. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. I'm getting better at
A
this.
lot, it's very dense.
So you see that it's up on the screen, the document that Kristen sent out to us.
Okay.
So those are all links. Like I said, I apologize, I didn't have a chance to go through it yet myself. So, I do have a paying gig. Some of us other, also have that. So, but they insist I actually do some work. So so we got, we got some contacts obviously and whatever. So we'll get somewhere with this.
So I asked them for the school necessity for construction application, the most recent school building regulations and considerations that's in there. And any resources for municipal bodies that are taking on this work, the regulations, the standards, the application, and everything about reimbursement and housing aid and timelines. So these appear to be the 4 major bodies of information. And the person that I spoke to at the Department of Administrative Services is Costas, and he's the first contact. And so he said, certainly if there's any questions as we go forward, but he reiterated the fact that in Connecticut, the first thing that you do is you go out and find an engineering firm and then give the engineering firm a sense of what the former committee planned and why, and then let them do sort of a facility construction index. They may start off with an enrollment forecast. They're going to want to see the condition of the buildings, what the enrollment looks like, all the things that you talked about in the last set of meetings that the former body had, and some of the wonderings that are on your mind now, like what makes sense to come first and where will the kids go. And so he seemed to be pretty confident that once you invest in an engineering firm, that they'll walk you through that, and that sometimes they have these visioning.
Engineering or architectural?
Oh, I'm sorry, architect.
Okay.
Sorry, it's been a long day.
I recommend drinking heavily. It works for me. So I'm kidding. I'm kidding. In a recorded meeting, this will come back and haunt me someday. But and this meeting is recorded, by the way. I probably should have said something about that. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you what. So at this point, as far as action items go, and I'd like to talk about those before we end the meeting. I think I'm going to put it on myself to develop some information about the property. I was suggesting to talk to Deanna, which we'll do, and John. Is he on the? I saw City of Norwich on here earlier. John, are you here tonight? John Salamone? All right, maybe not. So so we'll do that, and I probably should touch base with MPU again because they do have some inventory too. So and we'll have to take a look at those resources. So let's just think here. Just making notes here. So let me get rid of this. So at this point, I don't believe we're ready for professional services. You know, maybe next month we can have a more in-depth discussion regarding that and get something done. Because I think I'm thinking in terms of the architect myself right now. But without knowing the land situation and stuff, I think we want to clear that up before we go any farther. I think. Any other comments?
Would it be worth having someone? So this is Pete Gothier. Would it be worth having someone put together? Is there someone who can put together a Gantt chart for what the sequence of events might look like?
That's exactly what you just had up.
Yeah, that's what that timeline was.
So yeah, but I'm thinking I was going to go back to what the sequence would look like if you started from, we're going to build a new school, what all the dominoes might look like following that.
In our case, having a location is the only domino that's not on that time frame. So the time frame, would begin with that hiring the architect to do the preliminary drawings and stuff, the conceptual stuff.
No, I understand. I was just thinking in the discussion we had earlier about what schools in what order.
Oh, that's something we're going to have to, talk about. But some of that's going to depend on an enrollment study too, which is going to be part of this endeavor too. So I don't know at what point we're going to need to talk about that. Is that something we should, Kristen, wake up? Looked like you were sleeping. You were just looking
No,
down.
I'm writing a COVID letter, equally as fun as sleeping though, that the Department of Ed needs me to send out before 8 o'clock. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I am.
You
with
got,
you.
you got 14 minutes. Now I'm gonna lose my train of thought. What about, should we think about getting the enrollment study done at this point? I mean, we're gonna need it.
Right. So when I asked that, I've always known it to be one of the first components because I remember I only attended 1 or 2 of your meetings
Right.
when I was first hired. There was a lot of concern about how many students should we be planning for. And I asked Costas that, and he responded that you need an 8-year minimum project out from the, like, I mean, if you're doing it from today, I think you'd need 10 in order to hit that 8-year mark. 10 is preferred. So therefore, again, if you're doing it today, you'd need 12. And so I think that the way he envisioned it is that you first hire the architect and then they either have someone on their staff that does that work. You could sort of figure that out during your interviewing of them, or they would subcontract with a firm who only specializes in that work. And then, as I had stated earlier, some folks go with a cohort survival sort of look, which companies like NESDEC do for very little money. It doesn't have the same accuracy as a census, a birth rate census and cohort survival compilation. So I'd have to look through the Connecticut standards, or the architect could let you know what's that level of accuracy in the enrollment picture that the Connecticut Department of Ed and the Department of Administration would require.
Kristen, what is a cohort survival?
So a cohort survival is only based on birth data and then about how many of those kids that are born actually enroll in kindergarten. And then it's looking to, over a period of their career in the Norwich Public Schools, about how many do we lose and gain every year, hence the survival of the cohort. And typically, like electric bills and other utility predictions and budget trends that you can predict, there's a good deal of predictability unless something changes. So if a charter school gets built during a period of time, obviously COVID had a significant effect. If Electric Boat decided to put up another, workforce in Norwich, if the casino went away, like any big piece that may have happened within that birth to 5 or is projected within that birth to 8 and then the next 8 years, that would all have to be sort of resolved. What they don't look at is they don't look at the women who are in and living in Norwich and about how many kids they're destined to have. I know that sounds pretty reaching, but that's what a forecast does. It takes a look at the childbearing age women who live in Norwich and add that to the birth data and add that to the cohort and decide in a census, if they take it off of the census data, the most recent census data, and then they decide based upon a trend and based upon the women that you have, what's your enrollment going to look like. And it's more precise, and they'll show you by neighborhoods. So I've had a theory recently that I wonder how many folks that live in, let's say, the Mahan district go to school there, because Mahan is the school that most folks select when they want to choose to attend a different school. And it's our blue ribbon school. So that would make some sense. But our class sizes are really much smaller there than a majority of our other classes. And so you wonder when the neighborhoods turn over, is for right now, that neighborhood more of people my age who don't have young children in the schools? Or are they people my mother's age? And neighborhoods tend to turn around the same time. And then after they've been for a period of time with people my mother's age, then they all start going to young people who have young children. And so like, what does that look like and they'll show you by current enrollment zone where the pockets are going to lie, and do they align with where you've placed the schools? And so if it's not that costly, I think it's worth it to invest in a good enrollment look, because you're going to have to justify to the taxpayers and to the Department of Administration why you're building this many schools, why you think they'll be occupied. And in my experience, when you have some good data to back it up, it makes a difference in the confidence community.
Thank you.
Good. So the question remains though, as far as the architect goes, I'm going to think that we need to have an idea where we're putting the school before we can, really hire an architect. Am I wrong? Anyone?
Agree.
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 So let's do some work on that, and I'll when I hear something, I'll report back to the group. Let's see. So we think the architect in all likelihood would deal with some of the enrollment issues, the study issues. But I think Kristen's point is well taken. Certainly we want to get something on the high end of that. So anyone have anything else they want to bring up? Because I don't think,
Mark.
Yep.
I know we had to temporarily postpone our school visits, and I'm not going to actually advocate that we maybe think about doing this before the holidays, because we're just getting our kiddos back in the buildings this week. Amen. That was a mom speaking, by the way. Amen. Never thought I'd be so excited for 2 days of in-person school. But maybe we could start working with or Amber could start maybe trying to schedule stuff for January after the first of the year.
Yeah, sure. I see Kristen shaking her head yes, so nodding her head, so.
But she
Okay.
Oh, good, because I didn't ask her first.
Don't worry, I wouldn't say. So,
Mark,
yes,
Okay.
Greg.
we talked about, Peter mentioned about the Gantt chart and things. So what we have is inaccurate now. When are you going to update that?
What are you talking, you mean the
schedule?
The schedule.
Because if you never have the schedule, you never get there.
Yeah, on the schedule,
It's accurate. It's just the man.
yeah, the date's got to change. That's the main thing. But we also, we have to add the other step of the.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just-
So, but other than that, I mean, the order of events is fairly accurate.
Okay.
Just so we understand that. The only thing we're missing at this point is where we're gonna, build it.
Okay.
If we talk about a new school. So, I mean, we could always go do the renovations first too. That's the other thing if we had to. So like, I would say that, for instance, to give you an idea, Moriarty, that site would lend itself to doing a renovation, I think, without necessarily having to close the school. Only because of it's got 2 roads to access. So, you could access the site from the backside on Canterbury Turnpike, for instance. But just a thought, nothing, not. So logistically, I mean, that would be a possibility. Stan, that's a little more one way in, one way out. Most of the other ones are like that. So, that's the only one that's really kind of like that. So if you built Moriarty, whatever your expansion was there, if you were going to move people around, you could probably use it for that. It would work with some of the smaller schools. So that's a possibility too. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we shouldn't at this point be wedded to any one concept or idea. You know, what Stacy said is no more, you know, is valid as anything I'm making up. So, regardless, so I'm just, you know, not that, you know, I'm not, you know, trying to push anyone in any one direction. So my only goal is to get a successful project done, you know, so. So I just want to end with, by saying that. So right now, based on what I got, I don't think we have anything more to talk about unless somebody else wants to bring something else up. Hearing none, a motion to adjourn will be in order.
So moved.
By Bill Hull, a second, please.
I second.
Second by Greg Carabine. There is no discussion on a motion to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
None opposed. We stand adjourned at 7:57 PM. And I will get back to you with some more answers as soon as I get them, okay? I would like to thank everyone for coming, and everyone have a great day.
Good night.
Stay safe, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.